A happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to my show where it really is okay to not be okay. I'm Rae Bonney, a workplace mental health specialist, steadfastly dedicated to bringing much-needed attention to men and boys issues, especially around crisis and suicide prevention. In my spare time, I work in private practice with almost anyone and don't mind taking the mic to speak about all things mental health, men, and being change. It's not every girl's dream job, but hey, remember, men also matter. Before we begin today's show, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're broadcasting from today, the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I personally feel moved and inspired by the strength and endurance of the world's oldest living cultures and their tradition of storytelling as my guest and I share our own stories today. And speaking of culture and one of the oldest in Europe, we just heard from one of 3WBC's favourites, that's Tony Fidolani with, you guessed it, the Italian Show. Thank you for your amazing gift of bringing Italy to the ears of our listeners, Tony. Is it me or has Christmas snuck up earlier than ever this year? Dive in or opt out. It's just great to see so many people getting into the spirit of happiness, togetherness and community. And speaking of community, there's one movement that was born right here in Melbourne and has been growing exponentially ever since. What started as a simple idea to raise awareness around men's health has become a global phenomenon, uniting people every November to support men's mental health, cancer prevention and overall well-being. Today, I'm both honoured and overjoyed to have Jake Lambert, Movember's Senior Management of Fundraising and Development, live in the 3WBC studios to share his experience not only working with Movember and the incredible impact they have made, but what it actually feels like being Jake Lambert. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you, Rae. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I know, it's been a long time. We've known each other since 2018, and it's taken me this long to get you on the show. What's kept you from me?
Good things come to those who wait. So very, very excited to be sitting down and not only catching up with you, but having a chat around all things men's health this morning.
Yes. Well, it's pretty exciting, given it's Movember. I almost, when I say November, I have to really think hard to not say Movember. Is that the case for you?
My phone now autocorrects from November to Movember.
Oh, really?
I've typed it so many times. So, yeah, from now on, for years now, actually, it's just been Movember regardless. Even if I'm organising something in my personal life, it's just Movember during this month.
Fantastic. Well, we met in 2015. I'm just adjusting. You can probably hear me moving around in the studio, and I'm just adjusting myself because I have my laptop on the wrong side today because of some technical issues. You know what it's like when you have to change your brain to something else? I've found a little hole now where I can see you. But before we kick off, we do have a lot to get through today, and because of the White Horse Spring Festival, it's being celebrated in our amazing community today. We are finishing 1 hour early at 12 noon and crossing live to 3WBC's outside broadcast. That's OB in Radio Land. So back to our meeting in 2018 at White Owl for Men's Health. It's a charity I was involved in, ran for 7 years, and we used to have an event every year at Etihad Stadium to begin with. It's now Marvel, and raise money for the Australian Prostate Cancer Research Centre, and that's where we met.
Yeah, I remember I was very, very fresh at Movember at the time, and was just really keen to immersify myself in all sorts of different men's health events that were going on, and was just out and about and trying to learn as much as possible. I'd been a fundraising Mobro for years before joining Movember, and then when I was lucky enough to land my initial role there, I just thought I've just got to get amongst all the things that are going on for men's health out there. And it was lovely to meet you that day, and then to have sort of by distance always kept up to date with all the amazing work that you've been both doing and continuing to champion has now led us to be sitting in the same studio here today, which is exciting.
Yeah, and who knows what we can unfurl. It's amazing, though, when I reflect back to those days and the conversations we were having and, just our awareness raising that now feels a lot more about action. And, that's great in terms of evolution of health in general, but especially as we're talking here about men's health. But you mentioned before that you were a Mobro for many years before joining Movember. How did you get the job there? Did you just persist for years, or?
To be honest, I definitely thought that I wanted to move into the for-purpose space. My professional career prior to coming to Movember was in sport, and I'd always, loved working in sport.
You were a sportsman, or you?
Yeah, well, I mean, an amateur sportsman who loved watching and talking and writing about sport, and so I've actually got a degree in journalism. And yeah, had been bouncing around doing some short-term contract work in the professional sporting realm, and then I saw a role come up at Movember and applied for that, and they were actually hiring a separate community development role at the time, and some of the people that I'd spoken to there, they said, "Oh, you should throw your hat in the ring for this one as well," and I did that, and that short-term contract turned into what is now my 7th Movember campaign, which has just been life-changing in just so many ways, and
wow.
The people I've got to work with, the people I've got to meet, the things that I've learned, the way that I've been able to add that into my own personal life and my own personal relationships, but then get to experience the impact that Movember's having, because when I first did Movember back in 2012, I had no idea what we were fundraising for. I just grew a mustache as a 20-year-old because that was about all I could do from a facial hair perspective. So
did you have any sort of real interest in something particular around men's health, or it was just to be one of the getting with your mates?
Just to grow a mo, really.
Could you grow a mo at that age?
It was pretty ordinary, and I remember that so that was Movember 2012, and in the July of 2023, a few of us still had our mustaches, and it was my 21st birthday, and Mum begged me to shave it off. She said that you look a bit ridiculous. Don't have this mustache in all your 21st photos. You'll probably never have a mustache again. Could you please get rid of it? And then I think 4 or 5 years later, I landed my role at Movember, and apart from the shave down on Movember 1st each year, I pretty much have a mustache all year round. So, which was a little bit funny, but yeah, there was no real connection to cause in those early days, and
so what grabbed your attention about it?
I'd just seen cricketers do it. I'd seen some Australian cricketers do Movember, and yeah, as I said, I couldn't really do too much from a facial hair perspective. But
so the role modelling piece, was it?
Yeah, just, and like sports people and sport in general is always a place that I've looked to for learning and inspiration, and yeah, knowing that was and still am an avid cricketer myself, I thought, we can bring this into our cricket club, and probably didn't do the due diligence of really knowing what we were doing and what we're sort of advocating for in that early space. But yeah, as that evolved over the years, and then obviously being able to land a role at Movember, really proud to say that's something that my cricketing community has really taken on, and we've been really lucky to be exposed to some of Movember's great programs, and we've been able to fundraise. We've raised our $60,000 for Movember just yesterday.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, which has been super exciting. And as we sort of had the conversation last night, we said, it's great to be able to fundraise for Movember and to fund work that's bigger than ourselves, but also to know that the reason we're doing that is so people who come into our club environment, we are a big community club, spanning across different age groups and demographics, from young kids coming into our system to guys still playing in their 60s, that our club is a place where they can come in and have conversations about what's going well, what's not going well, and always be a safe space for that, which took some work for our club to move to that space and to really make sure that we were being and harnessing the potential that we had for a community environment. And yeah, really, really proud of all the work we've done there, and Movember's played a really, really big role in that.
Yeah, and given cricket is the most boring game in the universe, it's amazing how you've attracted so many people. Sorry to all the cricket lovers out there.
And to me, but no, that's okay. It's okay. It's not the first time I've said.
But, community, we're at a community radio station today. Community plays such a big role in connecting people and, consequently keeping them safe. From a family perspective, I imagine that your club plays a great role in that connection too.
Yeah, definitely. And family's one of our key pillars at our cricket club, because we want it to be a place where partners and parents and grandparents and kids can come down and be really safe and be really involved in what's going on. And again, to shift away from what some old school misnomers are about cricket clubs and, sitting down and drinking and smoking after games and those sorts of things, and moving away from that and being a place where, and yesterday we had our big Movember fundraising match, and there were just people and kids and partners and grandparents and stuff everywhere. And we made a real conscious decision to move to an environment that, that's what we wanted. We wanted people to come down and feel safe and to want to bring their families along. And now we see new members who bring the club, who come into the club, feel that instantly and feel safe to bring their family down and be a really open and welcoming environment, which is great. And it means that we are really living what we've set out to do. And a huge part of my role at Movember is helping clubs understand the power of their environment and the power of their community, and getting to see some of our programs in action to help people unpack those conversations and develop those environments.
What's an example of a program that Movember has? Because quite often we're asked about where all the money goes.
Yeah.
So here's an example of where the money goes. Yeah,
the Movember Speakeasy is one of my favourite programs. It's run by the Man Cave at the moment, who do some awesome work in schools. But the Movember Speakeasy program is something that we've run at elite sporting clubs, at workplaces, at community clubs, at friendship groups. It's an awesome program that helps you unpack how to have those really important conversations and to know what's on your will talk and won't talk list. And so it's a 90-minute session that the Man Cave go into environments and run. And to speak from the experience, I've seen hundreds of versions of the program rolled out. And when we had it at our cricket club, which was a few years ago now, it just transformed our environment. It gave us permission to have conversations within the four walls of our club. And when we get to go into a workplace and do and run those programs, we see the same thing. It just transforms the environment. And then next time you're there, it's like, okay, well, this is acceptable, right? I've got permission to have those conversations. And one of the many programs that Movember's funding and that is out and about at the moment, but something that's happening locally. And it's really, really exciting. And the Man Cave are just brilliant.
Are they free?
Facilitating. They can be, yes.
They can be.
So it depends on some fundraising and supporting, but most of the time we can make sure that we go to organisations and can show up and get. And
it's an interesting question, given my position, especially on the board of Australian Men's Health Forum and Global Action on Men's Health, and we do represent the sector. And the sector really doesn't get a lot of money. So Man Cave, I know, are one of those grassroots organisations that work really, really hard and do amazing work. So it's really good that you're raising the profile of grassroots organisations, and not a lot of people know how to access these resources as well. So I think Movember are starting to do work there as well in recognising what the sector already has.
Yeah, and to work with an organisation like the Man Cave, they're the experts in the field, right? And that's where, Movember's got such an awesome brand, and we've got some incredible people who work for us and do some amazing things. But recognising that we don't know everything, and that there are people out there who are absolutely experts in their field. And so how can we go to them and say, let's build something together, and then take that out and be there and support the men that we're here to serve.
Well, it takes more than one head, doesn't
it?
Yeah.
Absolutely it does, yeah.
But I think one of my favourite things about working with the human condition is the recognition of evolution. And, how that's what we do. We evolve internally, we evolve externally, and then the globe evolves around us. And I think when I look at Movember's trajectory, the evolution there has been, amazing in where it's been and where it is now, and, where it will go in the future. And you can see that there's some real stakes in the ground there. But for you, Jake, the last, did we say 7 years?
It's my seventh, yeah.
7 years, gosh. How has your role evolved?
It's changed incredibly, and I think it's sort of grown as I've grown, which has just been incredible. And it's certainly something that I try and remain really grateful for, because when it comes to a job, there aren't too many out there, I don't think, that get such a deep connection to cause and community, and be able to have such personal growth whilst also be professionally challenging and meeting some amazing people and networking and connecting. And I try and think back to those early days of Movember when I was just very green and thinking that that who knows how long I'll be here, and it was over that journey has just been incredible. I've got to work with some incredible communities. I work with our young men's portfolio, so across sports and education, so working really closely with our student ambassadors at university level, and really helping to create really good habits around men's health for these young guys that are out there, and also arming the communities that are around those guys with some techniques to make sure that they can spot signs in friends and they know how to have these really powerful conversations. But I'm just so very, very lucky that I get to be working in this space and for an organisation that I've believed in for a really, really long time, and continue to do so, and get to see some incredible work that continues to unfold, and year after year finding new ways that we can reach more and more men and go to where men are to take some of these health education lessons.
Yeah. And thinking about health education, thank you for painting that picture as well, because I think what you just said then, I don't think a lot of people know that about Movember, access to different kinds of programs and the range of pathways that there are to learning and development as well. But in 7 years, you've been evolving as a man, as a human being, taking things in your stride like fatherhood.
Yes, yeah.
So, that's a really big event for you. Your little girl's now 9 months old, almost.
Yeah, just about, little Georgie. She's 9 months. Things.
Yeah. So, in terms of your evolution within Movember, how does that feel for you being a man and now you're a father?
I was thinking about this the other day, to be honest. I don't know where I would be without Movember. I don't know what sort of a person I would be. I don't know where my priorities would be. I've always been pretty relaxed and level-headed, but, if I had continued to work in the fields that I was working in and not been exposed to some incredible lessons and education that I've had over the last 7 years, I just don't know what sort of a person I'd be. Is
there a significant one?
Oh, I'm not too sure. I just think that I've just been able to be where I've needed to be with Movember and learn just so much across the journey that, I think is just holding me in really good stead. I mean, having a child is obviously an incredible life-changing moment.
Yes.
And I just think that so much of what I've learned from Movember is things that I carry with me. I've learned a great deal of patience, how to shelve an ego, all these sorts of things that I might have learned and I might have picked up along the way, but I feel like Movember's been able to, and being in the environment with the people that I've got to work with and meet and those sorts of things, and the conversations that I've got to have has accelerated that development within me. And I'm certainly not perfect, and not saying that I'm the first person in the world to ever have a child and gain some perspective and all those sorts of things.
I thought I was the only person that ever had children.
It does feel that way, though.
It does,
think, right?
Yes.
This little person comes into your world and they're just the apple of your eye, but they're also, have turned everything that you know on its head, and then trying to balance the things that make me a well-being, and also being there for my daughter and my partner, who's doing just such an incredible job, and has just, there was never any doubts, but when you see it in action, her as a mother has just been one of the highlights of my life, to see what she's doing and then be there to support her, and then understanding the challenges that will continue to come as she goes back to work, and all those sorts of things that I'm really grateful for her support and the way that she allows me to show up from a work perspective and a sport perspective, and as a father as well. It's very, very different fatherhood, but it's been such an amazing 9 months that, as Georgie sort of starts to get a little bit older and is turning into her own little person, it's really exciting to see, and that's why I am, really proud to work in an organisation like Movember, and, over the next few years be able to start to have conversations with her around what Dad does for a job and why it's always been important to me. And again, starting those conversations from a really early age to make them a part of the norm.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying about supporting your partner and your your new family and Movember, how they've been really, really supportive. A focus of mine in workplace mental health, especially around mostly male workplaces, is how we support dadding, fathering. And, you're Jeremy McVean of Movember. Jeremy, one of the Movember icons, has an organisation called The Fatherhood, which has, for the last at least 5 years, I think, that's been going for, really focuses on the beautiful elements of fatherhood and really, really raising the profile of dads and how important they are in raising children, and also in workplaces, that critical importance of workplaces adapting their policies around how we allow men and give them proper permission to bond with their children through paternity leave. Is that something that Movember supports?
Yeah, so again, really, really lucky and very grateful for the paternity leave program that Movember has. So secondary carers, we get 13 weeks paternity leave. So
why are you a secondary carer? Like, that kind of, on behalf of all the men in the world, I just...
Yes, that's just, I think...
Are we able to change that terminology?
Termed as. I would view it as paternity leave, but that's not the reality for everyone, I don't think so.
Yeah, but being called a secondary carer to your child.
Yes, very true, very true. But so what we get is 13 weeks leave.
You just skimmed around that, didn't you?
Well, I mean, yeah, I see myself as a father, and definitely...
What about the rest of the world and dads, how they might see themselves at, like, be termed secondary carers or you're a hands-on dad as opposed to a hands-off dad? Yeah,
well, it's actually been very interesting.
Sorry, I've just segued there because I get really riled up about this.
No, that's fine. And I've... So it's something that I talk about with my partner a little bit, is that I receive compliments when I'm, like, I was at the Oval with Georgie was in the pram and our dog was running around, and a person came up to me and said, "Aren't you a great dad giving mum some time off?" And I was just standing there with the pram. I wasn't doing anything. And Rach was actually out running. She was training for a half marathon. My partner, Rach, is who that is. And she was out running 10Ks, and this person came up to me and said, "Aren't you a great dad?" And I was literally standing still at the time. And, I think that, it can be a really tough world for men at times. But then also when I think that I was literally standing, and it's happened at the shops, oh, you're giving mum some time off, those sort of things. And I think that, it's very strange, how some people see the role of fathers, and you're right, there's hands-on and hands-off and those sorts of things. And, so I guess to sort of get
I just think we have to just change the narrative, really, because it's just a habit that people have gotten into. And traditionally, traditional families that you go back generations, that was the way it was, because, dads only went to work and mums stayed at home. So they're very, very defined. Whereas as we're moving into our next phases of evolution, now it's looking a lot different, and we have to change our language to be able to come into line with that. And it was something that you and I spoke about off air before as well, and it's a real hobby horse of mine and has been for the last few years, and that's paternal postnatal depression, which is so unrecognised in terms of, male suicide and men's really, really pointy end mental health problems, that we're not there yet. When you became a dad, did anyone check in with you to see how you were feeling? Because it's a biological thing. It's to do with testosterone and stuff like that. It's not just about, oh my gosh, my life has changed.
Yeah, when Georgie was born, it was quite a long labour. It was about 50 hours, and then she was born at 3:21 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. And I remember just probably never really feeling what I felt in those probably first, let's call them 8 hours. And there was obviously a lot of factors at play going on at that hour of the morning and after a really long few days. But I was pretty overcome with feelings of anxiousness and thoughts that maybe this wasn't the right thing for me, and that both Rach and Georgie were both healthy and well, and I hadn't done anything to contribute to that, and that they might not need me around. And I was really grateful that I had that conversation with Rach which is maybe not fair to her, but like early on that same morning, and we sort of both recognised that there were some factors at play by why I was sort of feeling that way, and that we just take a deep breath, and we went home 9 hours after Georgie was born, and all of a sudden we were just at home with the baby, and it wasn't until and I was really lucky that all those feelings disappeared as soon as we got home and as soon as we got into our environment, and we're like, right, here we go. I'm into this, and this little girl is, perfect, and she needs me, and I need her, and I'm here for everyone, and all those things, disappeared really quickly. And I think it was because we were able to have that conversation. I feel like if I just had have held on to how I was feeling that morning, then it definitely could have, continued to spiral. But I think that, our relationship that me and Rach have, I was able to say, look, this feels really unfair of me to say this to you right now, but I'm pretty overwhelmed at the moment, which I think is only natural. But, I always sort of promised myself to remember how I felt that morning, and to give, patience to those feelings, and to, understand that things like that can ebb and flow. And I've always been really lucky with my mental health, I think. I've been able to, have, and again, the learnings that I've picked up over the journey, but I've had great support. Both professionally and personally, I'm really comfortable in talking about things when they're good and when they're not good, which is great. But that was one of those moments where I was like really felt overwhelmed, and I think to be able to put myself in the shoes of someone who was experiencing that for more than a few hours, it would be a really hard place to be, and to keep giving voice to that conversation is really, really important, because it's a seismic change in someone's life. And, sometimes, and it's probably the wrong term, but, as a dad, you can feel like spare parts when everything's going, and, there's only so much that physically you can do. And that, being able to put a voice to the fact that, it's really hard, and just because you didn't physically go through the giving birth, and, you might not have that instant connection that, not all the time mothers get, but most of the time that mothers get, it's a really important conversation to have. And again, having good role models and mentors in the fatherhood space is really important, and, listening to podcasts and reading some books beforehand, and then, realizing that everyone's journey is different, but also, to put a voice to some of those things and concerns and feelings are really, really important, and certainly helped me work through, which I'm very grateful for, was a really short experience. But knowing that that's not the case for everyone as well.
And knowing that could have been a fluctuation in your testosterone that happened to you. You don't know, but I think men may not consider that, or anyone may not consider that as being a risk factor. So people, there's some really, really good resources out there for paternal postnatal depression, and we'll put those in the show notes later, but just look it up. There's not a lot, but beautiful segue into that story. And thank you, Jake, for sharing that, because you had me absolutely just focused on your face as you moved through that remembrance. So thank you. Prior to that, you're a bit of a Swiftie, right?
Yes, I am, and unashamedly too. I mean, I think a lot of people who like Taylor Swift, I think sometimes are a little bit like, oh yeah, I listen a little bit, and then, but no, this is like, for a very, very long time, since I was in high school, she's been number one for me. So
why?
I've just always loved her music, to be honest. Like, I've just honestly always have resonated with her music.
The meaning, or just a
little bit of everything. Yeah. Like, obviously, way back, I think, 2007, 2008, when she first came onto the scene, it was just nice songs, right? Like, I really enjoyed it, and then followed her evolution through,
So prior to the birth of beautiful Georgie, and where were you and Rach?
We were at the Taylor Swift concert when Georgie came knocking.
2 days overdue, by the way, folks.
So we'd gotten the all clear to head along, and we had really nice seats and a few other things. We knew we were going to be pretty comfortable where we were and not that far from the hospital. But about halfway through the Eras tour at the MCG, Rach sort of started to feel a few changes, and despite our pre-concert promise. She kept it to herself until it was pretty visibly obvious that something wasn't quite right. And yeah, towards the back end, yes, we sort of had a bit of a conversation, and she was like, "I'm okay and everything's fine, but yeah, my waters are broken," and you know, it's starting to happen. And yeah, we'd had such great care already leading up to that. And again, Rach is the most prepared and organised person that I will ever met and will ever meet. And she was timing things and knew exactly that we were a long, long way from where we needed to be. And she said, well, we'll either be doing it at home or we'll be doing it here. So we might as well just stay for the next 45 minutes to an hour. And, which, you know, then living through the next 50 hours of labour was just a remarkable decision to make.
Was that hard to stay or was it hard to leave?
I mean, I was ready to, you know, go straight to the hospital, right? And Rachel's like, no, what we have to do is we have to ring them, and then she knew all the process and all those sorts of things. So,
was there a favourite song you were waiting for?
All of them. There was, and it sort of came through. When it all sort of started to go down, was through there were too many lulls in the concert, but yeah, there was some great moments coming, and I was team, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
But Rach was like, no, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. So yes, just a little bit of excitement. So hopefully Georgie grows up to be a Swiftie as well.
I was amazed that you didn't call her Taylor after all of that.
We did. It was one of the early names on our list, Taylor, and didn't make it past the first round, I don't think. So.
But imagine being able to tell her that as she grows up as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're very lucky that it wasn't, you know, overly quick and dramatic and wasn't born at the MCG or in a car or anything. We're definitely in the very best place when she did come some 50 hours later. But yeah, nice.
That 50 hours keeps on coming up for you. That's indelibly imprinted.
Time, yeah. And as we sort of touched on, right, there's nothing I could sort of do physically except for just be there and be present. And I think there's a little bit of an element of, you know, foreshadowing in that sometimes that's what being a good father is just being around and being a good partner within that same space is to just be there. And, you know, it's a conversation we've had with Rach a fair bit. Like, it's not about, okay, you're home and here, take Georgie. It's like, we want to be together. And just being around and getting to, as you know, as I said, as she sort of grows up and is starting to interact and smile and pick up things and those sorts of things. And it's just like, really wanting to be there, and again, being in a place with my work that really honours that. And, you know, I work with a few really amazing fathers and parents as well who manage me and manage my time. And, a guy who I've worked with for a really long time, Ryan McInnes, he's the director of fundraising at Movember, and he's a dad of 2 young kids, and, he's an incredible role model in the space of, you know, he lives down in Geelong, so he's got quite a long commute when he's in the office and those sorts of things. So the way that he's role modeling, balancing his time and being there for the important moments in his kid's life, and sometimes just being there in the morning to help with things, and has really set a great standard for all of us within the team. There's a few of us who have got young kids, and a few more who are about to have some kids as well, which is an exciting time for the team at Movember, because we really are more than just a work team, which is always really nice as well. We're really close friends, and to be able to sort of evolve and grow up together and have our kids grow up together is an exciting time as well.
But I think that's a great message for any workplaces that are listening in around, you know, how we create those environments of inclusivity. And part of that is, you know, in the men's space, especially with the amount of mostly male workplaces we have here in Australia, as you said, is to role model these behaviours. And these behaviours are not, you know, I'm a great secondary carer, but I can actually do both. I can do a really good job and also enjoy being a dad. It's not about turning up and it being a good dad. It's how do you enjoy dadding? That's a lot of blokes that I work with, they want to be there because they want to be there, not because they have to.
Yeah.
We're about 2.5 weeks into the Movember campaign. What's the highlights so far?
There's highlights every day. This is like, I mean...
Today is the highlight, I would have thought.
Of course. But, yeah, I mean... there's so many, I guess, from a close to home perspective. We had our fundraiser at the North Eltham Wanderers Cricket Club, which is my club, last night.
Can you say that again? Because you said that really fast.
The North Eltham Wanderers Cricket Club.
That's hard.
Yes.
North Eltham Wanderers Cricket Club.
Yes. So, and it's probably the most common 5 words that I've said in my life. That's probably why I said it so quickly.
But no, it's hard to say.
Yeah, so that's been a club that I've been involved in since I was 5 years old. And yeah, to see the way that community supports Movember each and every year and is brilliant. So it's always a real personal highlight. But yeah, we just see some incredible things. One of our community ambassadors, Jenna Fulton, spent 24 hours on a stationary bike, riding from Friday 4 p.m. to Saturday 4 p.m. Just gone, and yeah, just to see the lengths that people go to not only support the work that Movember do, but also signpost to their community and their friends and family that I'm here for you, and this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I want you to feel like you can have these conversations with me. And there's some awesome things coming up in the month too, which is just the Movember community just year after year blows me away. It really does, and again, it's not too hard to reconnect yourself to the cause and community when there's people out there doing some just incredible things for Movember and starting those conversations and really believing in the work that we do, which is really heartening. So it's just an incredible month. It feels like sometimes it feels like it goes for 6 months, day by day of it, but you really do just get the opportunity to really lean into community and see some incredible people do some incredible things. Yeah.
And, you talk about the lengths that people go to raise money. And I think Australia is probably the most charitable country in the world. I think we raise more money for charities than any other. But Movember in particular, over the years I've had quite a few Movember people on the show, including Jeremy McVean and also Adam Garoni, who's one of the founders of Movember. And, I was having a conversation with Adam when he was out here just a couple of years ago, and he was telling me about, because we're talking about, the amount of money that Movember raises, and he was telling me of all the amazing initiatives, especially in prostate cancer research, that Movember has contributed to independently. And I said to him, how do I not know this? How does the world not know this? And I think Movember's impact is way beyond just raising money, and quite a common, misconception is, all the money's just in vaults all over the world, and suicide isn't reducing, so it's not really having an impact. But are you able to speak to any of that? Number one, the impact on research, and solutions there, but also the comment around suicide.
We know suicide is a really complex problem, and that the numbers are alarmingly high and not going in the right direction either. And the work that we get to do at Movember is in that education and early prevention space, and being able to build a suite of programs that can get in on the ground level with guys. And it's tough, right? Because when year after year we're talking about numbers not going in the right direction, and it's such a big complex problem that we need to continue to find ways to address and to support the men out there. And so much of the work that we're doing now, which is a space I know that you're in, is that advocacy space and helping to change a system and build a system that's there to support men. And with, guys like Simon Rice and Zach Seidler leading the way at Movember in that space, it's something that I've got a great deal of belief in, that we've got the right people tackling the right problems, and the Movember Men's Health Institute bringing together leading experts around the world to tackle these problems around why men are dying too young. We released the Men's Health Report earlier this year, which noted,
I saw you there as well.
Yes, we did. That's where we reconnected, and in that report noted that 2 out of 5 male deaths in Australia are premature, and there's just, across our key cause areas, obviously, of mental health and suicide prevention, prostate and testicular cancer, there's so much great work going on. And I think that's probably been one of the biggest evolutions in my time at Movember has been we are doing so much important work, and particularly in that prostate cancer biomedical space, which is a little bit over my head sometimes, some of the terms and all those sorts of things. But what it is having a real impact on people's lives and their quality of life post-diagnosis, and how important early detection and prevention is, and being able to connect guys to resources that can really support them. And that's so much of the advocacy work that's going on now, to build and create that system that will be there to support men when they need it for either their physical or their mental health.
Yeah. I mean, I too was very excited when Movember stumped up $100 million for this institute here, which, as you said, is being headed up by Dr. Simon Rice here in Melbourne for the global markets. And I think the thing that is a little bit different is, I mentioned before, the focus that I have through Global Action on Men's Health and also the Australian Men's Health Forum into adopting policy for specific risk factors for men in the world, especially around cancers and mental health. I think that could be a focus of the Institute. I understand it is. And things can't happen overnight. They take time, and it takes time to sort of do that engagement strategy of how that's going to roll out. But as you mentioned, the men's health reports that came out earlier this year, one for Australia and one for the UK, were, if you can get your hands on one, it's actually online. It's easy to look it up. It's so comprehensive. If you don't know anything about men's health and the breadth and depth of the issues, it's just put in plain, simple English. It's evidence based. It's not fluffy. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was obviously a massive piece of work that the team undertook, but it was, again, right, it speaks to why we're doing what we're doing and why we spend time in this space and why so many people are so passionate about it, is because, and it helped me personally. It helped me, realign with, this is a crisis, right? Like, we are living in a time where men's health is continually in crisis, and here is the state of men's health currently. And that men's health report, it's available at Movember.com. You can just Google it. But it was, threw up some really stark realities of where men's health is at and why it is so important. And also why it's really important for us to be transparent with what's going on at Movember, why it's really important to help take these programs and this impact to not only the communities that support Movember, but for the communities that are out there that need it. And the investment that we've been able to make in Indigenous health in Australia and also in countries around the world, because the reality is that the health outcomes for people living in rural areas in Australia are horrific. And being able to make sure that we're not just delivering a lip service, that we're out there and we're having a tangible impact, and then being able to explain that impact is really, really important to us. And through things like the Men's Health Institute, we'll hopefully be able to continue to provide some real tangible evidence of the work that we're doing and the action that it's having.
So just get hold of that report, people, because it's something that you can regurgitate in your communities to help raise that awareness. So Jake, in the amazing work that Movember is doing, investing in, we are as the sector as well, what do you think are the major friction points or contributors that are exacerbating our progress in men's health and boys' health?
That's a great question. It's a really good question, isn't it?
Not to mention the latest Boots ad that came out. I don't know if you've seen that. Boots being the pharmacy in the UK.
No, I haven't seen that, I don't think.
It's just like, it's just not useful. It's depicted as there's a fat old Santa laying by the fire, snoring away, and then this sexy black woman sweeps in her beautiful robe. She strips off into some almost lingerie kind of thing. She whips up the elves, who are all non-binary elves, and runs around using pronouns, and he's sleeping. So the inference is that fat old lazy white man can't do a thing, and the black sexy woman comes in and saves Christmas. I think we really need to maybe just be rethinking some of that stuff. It's very counterproductive for men and women.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I get so much energy from being able to help educate guys. And I think that, there's obviously so many people out there who have probably not really been exposed to or not really been open to learning around, that there is more out there for guys. There's more opportunities to have conversations and to learn regardless of what your age is. And, I think to speak to my own experience is that when COVID started, I was living at home with mum and dad and
wow, and you've become a dad since then. It just seems 5 minutes ago.
Absolutely crazy. And like for the first time ever, me and my dad were working in the same building. And I just noticed our conversations changed because particularly in that early part of COVID, we were slammed with people wanting to, hear about mental health resources and how we can have better conversations and how we can connect. So I would spend all day on Zoom talking to school groups and workplaces around, some of the lessons that we have at Movember and how to go beyond banter and how to have proper conversations and those sort of things and some health techniques. And what I noticed that, whether or not it was subconsciously or not, is that because Dad was in the room next to me, our conversation started to change. And we've always had a great relationship and we're two peas in a pod, but we would talk about footy and, cricket and those sort of things that we both loved. But what I found was that when he was exposed, almost subliminally to the learnings and what I spend so much of my time doing and talking about, was that our relationship evolved and changed for the better. And in my first couple of years working for Movember, he didn't sign up and grow a mo, but then I just noticed one year he was like, "Oh, we're doing it this year," and those sort of things. And so, and I mean, he's a great man. Like he's certainly not, but he was just, I think, raised in a different time, and the relationship that he had with his father and those sorts of things were just not around prioritising conversations around their mental and physical health. And they were definitely, the old school dads go to work and barely seen during the week, and he did a great job when we were growing up of making sure that he was there for the moments in our lives and heavily leaned into our sport and those sorts of things. But what a great COVID outcome. I mean, there's been many great COVID outcomes, contrary to popular belief that that's just another one that I've heard. But I think when you speak about generations, I think we have to be very respectful to, past generations and their attitudes towards things, because that is how they were raised. Totally, and, there's some really good values and beliefs within generations. But we have to respect that not everybody buys it. But your dad's a great example of vicariously, being sort of, involved in what you're doing. He's been able to make that shift himself. Yeah, 100%. And you are absolutely right too, because the traits around, working really hard and showing up in a variety of ways for a family, right, is, you can't do it all. But, so much of what I've learned from him is that, whatever we had growing up was because of the sacrifice that him and mum made. And I think I'm learning that too with Georgie now, is that you don't just, when you become a parent, you don't just get to do whatever you want whenever you want anymore. And we were ready for that and those. But I feel like that could be a really hard lesson to learn for some people as parents, and maybe not knowing exactly what's coming. But you're right. I've learned so many amazing things from my dad, continue to do so, right? And he's no longer working now. He's retired. He's and to see the way that he is with Georgie is just honestly just incredible. And, long may their relationship grow and continue. And
it's such a special one to have. I mentioned to you, I became a grandparent 16 months ago, and Evelyn and I, on Mondays we have Evelyn and Rara. I'm a Rara, not a grandma. Rara Mondays, where we have an adventure. Every Monday I take time out of my 7-day-a-week occupation because it's important for me actually to create memories for her when she can't make them for herself, and then we'll evolve together. It's really special.
Yeah, I think, I obviously remember Dad's influence growing up and those sort of things, but not when I was that little. And I think to see, how he would have been with us back then, like we've got some old home videos and stuff like that, where he's around catching us falling off rocking horses and those sorts of things. But, to see him in that role of, what he would have been like when when we were little as well, and
Yeah.
like seeing that come out again, and the fact that he's got so much more time now for it.
Is it his first grandchild?
Yeah, yep. So Georgie's the first grandchild on both sides for both Rach and myself. So it's just, she doesn't know how good she's got it. She's going to get a very big shock to the system one day. But we are so lucky. Honestly, we are so lucky with the family support that we've got around. Which, you know, again, she's got. And I know we're here to talk about Movember, so she's got some great male role models in her life. She's got, I've got a brother, Rach has got two brothers. She's got two grandfathers that are really awesome people who have really quickly, and there was no doubt they ever would, but have taken to the role of a strong male role model in her life. And you know, when I speak about strong male role models, they do all aspects of looking after themselves and being respectful and just being great. So
showing, rather than,
and it's just, I don't want her to grow up quickly, but I can't wait for her to grow up and, you know, start to be able to take in the environment around her. And she already is, but to be able to be like, hey, I've got some really awesome men in my life who are doing some amazing things for me and just showing me the way that that men can be, and that, you know, that's a huge driver for me. As I said, I'm not the first person to have a child in the world, but this year has been a great time to reflect on why men's health is important to me. And it's important to me because I want Georgie to be surrounded by men who care for her, and for them to be healthy and be around for as long as possible, to continue to be those role models. But I also want her to be growing up in an environment where she's safe and respected, and you know, the family violence situation in Australia is very tough, right?
Got another hour?
Well, that's the thing, right? So,
and
you know, to have a daughter in the world, and she can't move yet, so she's always within arm's reach of someone. But at some stage, she's going to go out into the world, and you know, healthy men, healthy world, right? Is what we're focusing on through that men's health report, in being making sure that by upskilling men and making sure they've got all the tools to prioritise their own physical and mental well-being, is that they can continue to have a really strong impact on their families and communities.
I guess, you know, where you're alluding there is, you know, about girls being safe in the world from men, and that men need to be doing better and being healthier. You know, I guess my lens on that is, you know, working pretty exclusively with men, especially in private practice, is that you constantly seeing men who are in pain, who've been raised in ways where there's so much abuse and violence towards men. We don't recognise violence towards men quite often starts when they're kids, but it's not recognised like that. So they're hurt and they grow up hurt. So I just like to take that little bit of different lens off in, you know, people role model people. And there are gender specific things that occur, but how we're raising boys in the world, man, if I could take all the Movember money and all the Beyond Blue money, I would dump it on new families just like yours who are raising the next generation of people, and invest so much in raising kids in peace and harmony and joy and all of those things that create really good citizens of the world, and give them a chance, give them at least 7 years where they can just get their feet on the ground, you know. And I think that's got nothing to do with gender. It's got everything to do with how we're raising people.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, as a new parent, it's tough, right? And you ebb and flow. And
maybe not all of the Movember money, but a lot of it.
But yeah, you know, like there's so many challenges of being a new parent, and you know, as I said, we're really well supported, and I can speak from my experiences that, you know, we've got brilliant support around us, and there's times when it's still really, really tough. So. I feel like we're set up completely for success from a parenting perspective, but that doesn't just equate to everything being great and easy, right? So, like, the more support and the more scaffolding we can put around young families, I totally agree. And then, as you said, we're products of our environment, so we can continue to grow. And
we just have to stop getting up, you know, downstream to go, this is a problem that needs to be fixed downstream. Why don't we invest half of that in minimising the risk of it happening in the first place? Yeah. And, you know, it's not so much about angry men. It's about hurt men, broken men, men that have been really damaged. and yet we still don't have, the appropriate support resources for those men, especially men who've been affected by sexual assault as little boys. We have one charity here in Australia so far.
Yeah.
Come on, everyone. It's not very palatable, but we have to address that. It's a thing, and it does affect people.
Definitely.
So, anyway,
yes.
On that note, we've got 5 more minutes, Jake. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen on the stroke of 11 o'clock. Most likely it's going to go straight to the Spring Carnival, Spring Festival. But until then, let's just talk it out. The song that I chose for you, if we get to play it, Taylor Swift, is Forever Winter.
Oh, nice.
I did a bit of research and I thought, what's most closely aligned to men's health? And it appears that could be about 10 people, but it all comes back to perhaps a male who's been struggling.
Yeah, it's a lovely song. It really is. There's so many. She's got a great discography, but I think one of the beautiful things about, and again, we could probably spend the next hour talking about Taylor Swift, but it's not hard to.
He's teared up, guys. He's crying about Swiftie.
It's not hard to apply so much of her work to your own situation. I think
it seems a common theme. Yeah.
Yeah. Forever Winter is a song that I always think about and have tied since I first heard it. Have tied into men's health.
We can just play it.
Yeah, and then play it and see what happens.
And see this. So while I cue that up. Is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with in terms of just last words, for the show?
I think that, as we sort of touched on throughout, right, like Movember is such a great time, but it's also a really, can be a really emotional time and can be a really tough time for people because, the conversations that we have and, can make you think of a person or a time in your life maybe when things weren't going so well. And we're lucky to have an incredible community supporting us. And I guess what I would encourage people to do is to head to Movember.com and try and immersify themselves in that, understanding, the work that goes on, the people that are there fundraising and supporting. And if you were in a position to donate and believed in the work that Movember are doing, then Movember.com is the place to go to do that. And of course, there's my contact details are available. The team at Movember, there are people there who are willing to help you better understand the work that we're doing and where that money goes. And we're always open to be having those conversations as well. So I'm so grateful for the time to have this conversation with you this morning, Rae, and I'm sure that won't be the last time you and I sit down and chat Movember and men's health.
But thank you for coming in and sharing all of that with our audience and enlightening them to some of the ways that they can look at things differently and also the pathways of support that Movember offer that people may not have known of.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So here it is, Forever Winter by Taylor Swift. Take care, everyone.